Hello, Internet! Welcome to Full Frontal Developer. No doubt you've seen some flashy web page content in your time and wondered how exactly is that done. Today, with only a few lines of code and a couple of simple files, we are going to create something super fantastic ourselves. Now, the name of the project is Scroll Animation, and just to show you a finished version of what this project will look like, I'll open up our browser, and you can see here that we have a very fun little header here. Now, the magic happens as we start to scroll down. We have these content blocks that fly in from the left and the right, and it's nothing super crazy, but it might be just the icing on the cake for whichever web page you might be working with. So some kind of fun, dynamic, on-the-fly content, and actually super easy to create. And so we'll go ahead and get started here. I'll minimize this and we'll bring up our Visual Studio, which is just the ideal software for creating this sort of thing in. And we'll go ahead and start with our three obligatory files, the index.html, the script.js, and the style.css. All right, since this is HTML5, we will declare our doc type as we should. And then we'll go ahead and start with opening up an HTML tag, and inside that I will create a head tag. The head tag will have some meta content. First we'll define our character set. We'll set it equal to UTF-8 so everything is transcoded properly. And next we will define our viewport to ensure that no matter which device they're using, it will be scaled and sized correctly. Set our content equal to the width of the device width, and the initial scale is going to be equal to 1.0. Alright, super easy. That takes care of the meta tags. Next, let's make a link to our style sheet. Which is going to be in the location called style.css. Okay. After that, we'll go ahead and create a title, and we'll just call this Scroll Animation. And after the title, that will be everything we need in the head tag. So now we can go ahead and start our body tag. In the body tag, we'll have an h1 header, and we'll just call it, let's say, Scroll Content. After that, we'll create a div tag. We're going to classify this div tag as a box. And inside that, we'll have an h2 tag that just says content to simulate some super fun content. Now this div tag, we're just going to copy and paste as many times as we like, as many boxes as we want to have present. So we'll just do about 20 or so. All right, and then before the end of the body, we will go ahead and reference our scripting file, which is going to be our script.js. Excellent. Okay, that's everything we need for the HTML. Now if I go ahead and run this with live server, we should get something close. All right, nothing great. I mean, it's pretty basic, but we have barely scratched the surface. Let's jump into our style sheet. So now if we go to the style.css, I'd like to import the font called Railway, which right here under the import tag, we don't need the style tags because it is going directly into our CSS worksheet. So we'll simply copy and paste the annotation that says import right there. And if I copy and paste that, I can put it right at the top of my style. And then let's do some universal styling. So let's do box sizing, and we'll set it equal to border box. After that, let's begin to style the body. The body's going to have a background color, which is going to be equal to that soft yellow that we picked out. It's going to be F7EF9B. We'll jump back over here to see how that's coming. All right. Let's do the font family and make sure to include the Railway as our font and to also specify sans serif. After that, we will display flex. The flex direction will be column. And just like always with the flex direction column, we'll assign or we'll align items to center and we'll justify content to center. And we'll define the margin as 0 so we can define that specifically for each item. And we'll set the overflow X equal to hidden, so we don't have a horizontal scroll bar. And that's everything we need for the body. Let's go ahead and define our H1 tag. We'll just give it a margin of 10 pixels. And it should be pretty good. After the H1 tag, let's go ahead and define our box class. So the box class is going to have a background color of the rose red that we picked, which is going to be F7, A3, 8F, like so. Okay. Then we'll do the text color. We're simply going to make this equal to a dark gray. So I'll pick just a nice dark gray. 222 will be fine. Then we'll do display flex and align items center, justify content center. And then we will set a width equal to 400 pixels and a height equal to 200 pixels. Okay. Then we need to add a margin so that they're not crashing into each other. I think 10 pixels should be enough. That looks good. And then the border radius to give it a nice beveled edge, 10 pixels should be good there as well. Coming together now. A box shadow, just to make it look like it's popping off the screen. And we'll do a 2 pixel, 4 pixel, 5 pixel, and then the RGBA of values 0, 0, 0, and 0.3 for the shadow. All right, not bad. Now we need to add the transform because we want these to be flying in from each of the margins. And so initially we'll make them all fly out from one margin, and then we'll go through and pick every other one and have it fly in from the opposite margin. So let's do a transform of translate X because they're going to be flying in horizontally. And we'll set them equal to 400%. So we're going to push them way off the margin. And then what we'll do using the JavaScript is we'll apply a class which will remove that translation and make them fly back to the center. However, the transition for this translation, for this transform, should be somewhat smooth. And so we'll do a transition on the transform of 0.4 seconds ease. Just like that. Okay. Now if I save that, these are all going to fly off to the side. And then if I then attack the box, and we're going to do nth of type, and we'll say even. That'll give us every other box. And for these, we're going to do a transform of translate X negative 400%. And that will push those off to the opposite margin. If I save, you'll see real quickly, half of them flew off to the other side. And then we'll target the box of class show, which at this point none of them have, but using our JavaScript we will add the class show to each one of the boxes. When they have the class show, the transform is going to effectively remove the translate X. So we'll just reset that to 0. And that'll bring them back to the center of the screen. Next we're going to target the box H2 tag, and that is going to be the font size, and we'll give it a font size of 42 pixels to make it nice and big. Okay. I think that's all the styling we're going to need for this project. And now the JavaScript, if we jump into our script.js tag, is going to be even easier. And so for this one, all we're going to do is define a constant. It's going to be an array of all of our boxes that we'll call boxes. And to populate it, we'll access the document, and we're going to do a query select all, everything that has the class of box. And that will load all of those elements into our array. Next, we will target the window object. We're going to add an event listener, and this is going to be a scroll listener. And as it scrolls, we're going to execute a function that we're going to write called checkboxes. And this function here is going to be containing a constant that we're going to call trigger bottom, and we'll set it equal to the window element. And we're going to target the inner height of the window and then just perform a little bit of math to make sure that about the right number of elements appear on the screen at any time. And so I'm looking for 4 or 5 boxes or so. So we'll take the window.innerHeight, we'll divide it by 5 and then multiply it by 4. And that should give us about the right number of objects. Then we're going to iterate through all of our boxes in the array. So in our boxes array, we'll do a for each loop. And for each box in that array, we'll do a function, which will be defining a constant that we'll call box top. And we'll set that constant equal to the box. And we're going to access the get bounding client rectangle and target the top field of that. And by checking the top of the bounding client in a rectangular form, will give us the element size that we're looking for to give us those boundaries that will make sure that as we're scrolling through this constant that we've defined right here, that it's going to calculate the window height, it's going to assign that constant to the top of our box elements, and then from there we can check to see if the box top is less than the trigger bottom. Let's add to the class list the class of show, which will then adjust the translate X to bring them back to the center. If it's not, then let's remove the class list of show, which will push them back off to the margin again. All right, so pretty simple, nothing to it. I think that's all of the JavaScript we're going to need for the project. And so if I jump back in here, and you see we've got this beautiful dynamic animation to our web page that again just creates this real flashy content, real easy to make, and just really brings that web page up to another level. And so hopefully this has been fun and educational. Of course, like always, this code is available in a link to the GitHub that's going to be in the description. Hopefully this was fun. I thank everyone for watching the video, and we'll see you back again for the next one.